I did advertising for my whole life since I was a teenager, and that's what I did for decades. But then kind of with starts and stops, I kind of started doing these portraits down on Skid Row in Los Angeles. And then I started doing interviews with some of the people, and it's just kind of grown from there. And now I'm doing pretty much devoting most of my time, almost all my time, to these interviews of all kinds of interesting characters. You know, a lot of drug addicts, a lot of gang members, a lot of sex workers, a lot of, and you know, I'm branching out and going to other things now too.
Yeah, it's interesting to see a guy like yourself from the traditional advertising world kind of diving into like the digital social media world with YouTube.
Yeah,
I definitely noticed instantly the crossover with your photography on the thumbnails, like going on your channel and seeing all of the thumbnails are like amazing photographs of these characters in your studio.
Yeah, I mean that's what I do. I'm a photographer, and I do a good job of that.
You have like over 1 million subscribers on YouTube, right? You have like 1.3 million subscribers.
1.44 right now. Yeah, I just saw. No, but when I first started it, which is really just like a little over a year ago, year and a half ago, I thought I'd have 20 subscribers. I honestly thought this is just going to be for a couple friends of mine to laugh at, to find interesting. And I just think it's worth doing, so I'm just going to do it. Mm-hmm. And I thought maybe 20, 30 oddballs would find it interesting. Because there's always people for you could put up anything, and there's somebody out there that responds. And I got those 30 subscribers, and then I got 60, and then I had 100, and then I had 300, and and now it's 1.4 million. It's crazy.
That is insane, man.
Yeah. I had no idea that there was, you know, I mean, I kind of knew, I mean, maybe you know, your subconscious is very interesting, how it's different than what you, like, on the surface, I kind of thought that no one would be interested, but maybe subconsciously I knew better. Because we're all human.
Yeah.
And if you're human, you struggle. Who doesn't? We all do. Mm-hmm. And that's what these stories are really all about.
What gave you the idea to start bringing these people into your studio and interviewing them? Like, what made you want to do
initially,
that?
I had a studio down in Skid Row. I've had 3 of them now. But the first one, I was doing portraits, and it was great. I had a great location. People would just walk in, and I'd give them a little cash, and I'd do a portrait. Mm-hmm. And that was it. That's what I've always done, is just photography. And then Canon came out with these cameras that do video.
The 5D and the 7D.
Exactly. It was a 5D. And I said, let me just play around with this. There was this one prostitute, heroin addict, and she was a prostitute, Caroline, that I got to know down there. And I said, hey, would you want to do an interview? I kind of knew a little bit of her story, and she said, sure. So she sits down, and I point this little camera at her, and we just I didn't take it seriously. I just thought I'm just going to play around with this stupid video camera. I've never shot video in my life. And I was like, whoa, this is heavy. And that was incredible. I just got really lucky the first time, I thought. And that was that. I didn't really think that it was going to turn into something. And then I did a few more, and damn it, if they weren't all interesting in different ways. And I've said this before in other interviews where Richard Branson from Virgin said, talking about career choices, said you create 4 lists. One list is everything you're good at. Another list is everything you're bad at. The third list is everything you love. And the fourth list is everything you hate. And if you look at all those strengths and weaknesses and things you're into and things you're not into, it'll tell you what to do. So I'm really into psychology. I've always been that. And I find people super interesting. Just the way you look, the way you dress, the way you wear your hair, the way your body language, all these things, everybody is interesting to me. And then you get all these, in the United States, you get all of these different characters. The people in Boston look very different from the people in Miami. And then you go to New Mexico, they're very different from how they look in Minnesota. And those are so interesting to me. I've been to every state now. For my first book, Create Equal, I went to every state. And I found every single state interesting. Now, I wouldn't want to live in South Dakota, but it's interesting as could be to me, because it's just, wow, look at how these people live. Look at the struggles they have. Look at the stories that are there. And I just find it all so interesting. So I'm really into that. So that's the psychology and the people aspect. And I'm also into photography. And I'm also into like these stories and just the the psychology, I mentioned this in one of the recent interviews that I'm interested in the human struggle, the thing that we all go through, which is, trying to find love, trying to find happiness, trying to find fulfillment, trying to make a living, trying to just survive and thrive in the world. And I find all that stuff so interesting. And it's just interesting. It's and then we also seem to be like in our own way. Like we'll do things to screw ourselves up. Like why would you drink like that to alienate your entire family, to lose your wife, lose all your income, lose your job, you've just destroyed your own life. Why would you do that? So that became really part of this whole process too. So really what this project is a mix of all of these things all put together. All the things that I'm good at, all the things that I love. And I don't have all the other hassles and all the things that other jobs, like my advertising career, there's lots of ass kissing and there was a lot of doing things you didn't really want to do. Mm-hmm. I love photography, but I was doing photography for that. I don't give a fuck about that.
But they look great, man.
I can swear, right?
You're photographer. Oh yeah, you can swear all you want.
I don't give a fuck about that. I mean, so often I would say to, Axel, my assistant who worked with me for decades, still does, on these trips, comes with me. And I would say to him all the time, like, I would hate this so much, what I'm doing. I give two shits about this. But there's money, so we're doing it. And it's like, but that's how you're spending your life, is doing something you really don't want to do. And now the digital technology has kind of undermined your ability to make a great living, which I made a great living at photography, at advertising photography. Well,
you have some of the biggest fucking clients I've ever seen.
I had a client list that was so ridiculous.
Give me your top 5 clients that you've had.
They were everybody. I shot literally for everybody. Every single client.
Bud Light, right?
Yeah, of course, 100 times. And Mercedes-Benz and IBM and Apple. I was the Apple photographer for like 10, 12 years. You name it, everybody. So I was wildly successful, and it was really great. It was a really great ride for 10 to 14 years there. It was wonderful, and I loved it, and I was really proud of it. But eventually, it got to a point where it's like I just wasn't happy. I wasn't enjoying it anymore, and it's like, And then it also became more difficult to make the money that I got used to. Because digital technology changed. Like, find somebody in this whole state that doesn't have a camera in their pocket,
right? And
eventually that bleeds. That affects people like me, who charge
with that whole gig economy. You just go online.
I would charge more than anybody else in the world for what I did. But when somebody had a client like Intel and they needed to spend, we just want the best. Who's the best? And boom, they'd come to me and I'd charge whatever I charge, and they would pay it, because they're not going to cut corners and pay somebody cheaper. This photographer is a quarter of the price. They don't care. It's Intel, or it's Apple, or it's whoever, and I would always get the job. And I made so much money, it was ridiculous. So that was great. And then eventually it became not great. And I really I was unhappy. And then also what happened is, because all the digital technology, there became all this cheap competition. And the economy kind of took a turn for the worse, and all kinds of other things happened in the world, and it just became really difficult for guys like me to make the money that I was used to. I mean, I still do jobs once in a while. I did one last week, a nice one. And I got another one coming up, and that's really what supports this channel, because I'm still not making money at this channel. YouTube demonetizes pretty much everything I put up. Even the clean videos. Like there's even the cleanest video, I'll put up something that doesn't have a single swear word. Drugs were never mentioned. Sex work, nothing. Like Selena, this little high school girl. That's a really sweet story from Appalachia. That got demonetized. Like, there's nothing wrong with that video. It's a high school kid talking about avoiding the dangers for this drug.
That's a big problem, man.
It's so hard to make money. When they demonetize everything I put up. From the get-go, they can't even watch it. They just see like Norman, this guy, a crack addict who's recovering. I put up his videos. They demonetized. I put one up this morning. He got demonetized. Come on, he's not even talking about drugs. He's just talking about the fact that he got laid off at work, and he's going to persevere, and he's going to try to get another job. That's all the talk is about. And they talked about Kobe Bryant at the end, and it's like that's it.
Do you hit that button, the manual review?
So how do
button?
I can't make money on YouTube yet. Maybe one day something will change or shift, or maybe I'll put up so many, I'm not going to swear, so many videos that eventually it'll turn the corner and I'll start making more money. But I spend a lot of money doing this. Like those 10 pedophiles that I just told you about off camera, that I interviewed 10 pedophile sex offenders.
That's why you're down here in Florida, right?
That's why I'm here in Florida.
Right. So tell me about that. How did you find out about this trailer park or whatever it was?
Well, I do a lot of research. I mean, like when I'm looking for the Ku Klux Klan or in this case sex offenders or whatever, like I found that there's this mobile home park in St. Petersburg, Florida, that has nothing but sex offenders, because they're not allowed to live near schools. They're not allowed to do. They can only live in certain areas. So this trailer home park is like somebody figured out, like, let's just put them all here. They'll all be happy. They'll all be self-contained. The community won't have a problem with them, and that solves all the problems. I just figured, let me just go there and see what I can work out, and it worked out great. Yesterday was like shooting fish in a barrel for me. So
how do you approach something like that? You just show up to the mobile home park with your camera in your hand.
Sometimes,
hey guys, I want to.
No, sometimes like I don't want to travel all the way across your country for nothing.
Right, exactly. I'm sure you have some sort of.
But that's happened because my saying that I use a lot with this project is you got to kiss a lot of frogs. And sometimes I'll do these interviews and I got to sit through 45 minutes of pain and misery and really difficult things that are being shared, and I'm not going to use it because I only use about 1 out of 6 that I shoot. So it's not like I just shoot videos and put them up. I shoot a lot of videos and I use only the best ones. But sometimes you just have to like wing it and just show up and do it that way, because sometimes you can't really set things up. Like I'm a photographer from LA and I'm going to come to St. Petersburg, Florida. I'm going to interview you pedophiles.
Don't call. Yeah, right.
That's not going to work.
Right, of course.
That doesn't fly. So you have to feel everything out, and every single situation is different. So you can't. There's no formula for how you can get a Ku Klux Klan member to share his story, because they don't like doing interviews, because they usually get colored as bad guys or racist or whatever. Which you can say whatever you want about them, but all I'm looking to do is a non-judgmental interview with them.
Not good.
I'm not
or
saying
bad.
they're good. I'm not saying anybody is good or bad.
It is what it is.
The pedophiles, the sex offenders. I'm not saying anything good or bad about them. Every single one came back to me later on and said, that was great. Thank you for talking to me. So that's a huge part of.
How do you approach them though? Like
I just tell them what I'm doing.
What exactly do you say to them?
Well, I mean, you have to feel it out. You have to be a chameleon to figure out what will work for you, what will work for her, what will work for all these different people. And it's not the same approach all the time. It's always very different. And I'm very good at feeling that out. So again, it goes back to the list that Richard Branson mentioned. It's like you need to, like, one of my strengths is I'm able to figure out what you might be thinking or feeling. And I can adapt my behavior to work with you by speaking a little more slowly or saying the right things, or maybe it's just about money for you, or maybe it's not about money. Like in Appalachia, money doesn't work.
Really?
Money doesn't work. They don't even take money. The majority of the interviews in Appalachia, when we're all done, I pay people, and I'll put like $100 in their hand, and they jump back. Like, no, they won't even take the money.